Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known in this realm as Jaime and Fuego. Bienvenidos and welcome to my show every Sunday here on the horror show entitled Hail to Stephen King. And today is a special episode where we are finally, I know, maybe it's disappointing for some, maybe it's relieving for others, because I know some people have had some, how do I say, mixed feelings about all of the success that has been Stephen King's It. I really liked it. I didn't love it, but I really liked it. And I mean, especially as an awesome cumpleaños, you know, a 70th birthday present to Mr. Stevie K. Yeah, his talent, it's deserving, especially after the shit show that was The Dark Tower. I was just so happy to actually have fun and enjoy a King adaptation. I mean, he's 50-50 so far this year, in a year that is 2017 that I've been honestly dubbing the return of the King, you know, because Mr. Mercedes is fantastic so far. I cannot wait to do a full series review of that with Marsha Parker here for Hail to Stephen King. That's going to be coming once we only have a few episodes left at this point. Damn, has it been good. But then, for every Mr. Mercedes, there is The Mist. For every It, there is The Dark Tower. And so, you know, we have 2 more entries coming here this year from Stephen King. And ironically enough, both of them are coming to Netflix. Yeah, that's right. So in October, we have 1922 coming with Thomas Jane, and I have sung the praises of this novella. It's not quite a short story. It's like 100-something pages. Full dark, no stars, tremendous, takes place in, 1922. And it's about this guy who basically convinces his son to help kill the kind of bat-shizzle crazy mother who, she's unreasonable. I don't think she necessarily deserves to die, but that's just at the beginning of the story, and it's all about the aftermath of what transpires afterwards. We just got a trailer for that just the other day. I'm watching it this weekend with the horror show, so by the time you guys are seeing this, yes, that's right, I will have watched it already because we get together on Sundays. But the one that I am here to talk about today is the book that I just got done rereading. Yeah, Gerald's Game. Definitely one of the least known Stephen King novels ever. Yeah, that's right. So this came out, I want to say after, Needful Things and after The Dark Hand. It was basically after King had finally decided to get sober after the Tommyknockers. And so it's when he was getting into that phase of starting to write as women, and he did this for a while. In fact, this book it's not so much a companion book, but it has some tied-in correlations with the book that comes right after, which is Dolores Claiborne, which they did an amazing adaptation of with, once again, Kathy Bates acting in a Stephen King adaptation just a few years after Misery was so successful and won her an Academy Award. So Dolores Claiborne, they did a great adaptation of, but Gerald's Game was always thought of as unadaptable because of the source material. And the source material, as you can see by the cover, I hope you can see it up there, essentially there is a aging couple, late 30s, early 40s, and essentially they start to get into bondage. Namely, the lawyer husband is just really, he starts to like, chaining his wife up to the bed and having his way with her. It's kind of, well, I don't even know if, hey, kinky to some, maybe not necessarily for me. I'm more of the chainy instead of the chainer, but, you know, nonetheless, that's completely beside the point. So these two are up at their remote kind of like vacation cabin home in northern Maine, remote northern Maine, and they're getting down, and she has, the protagonist, whose name, oh goodness, why am I having trouble remembering it? It's something with a J. This is gonna kill me. Jessie, that's right, damn it, sorry guys. Should have had that in the notes. But, so, Jessie is basically, she's already sick of this. She's not enjoying it, even if she had some fun early on and had some multiple O's and whatnot. The variety of it, or the I don't know, the uniqueness or whatever, it's worn off. And so when she's chained up in this remote area and nobody is anywhere near that could potentially, you know that they're there, aid the situation if something bad goes down, well, her husband starts to get a little rough rougher than normal, and she kicks him. Falls off the bed, and he has a heart attack, and he is donezo. He's dead, or at least she thinks he is initially. And well, it's at the beginning of the book. Minor spoiler. He's dead. So yeah, she's chained up. He's down dead, middle of nowhere. What the hell is gonna happen? What is she gonna do? All that she hears is somebody like cutting a chainsaw in the distance, you know, like sawing away. She hears a dog barking, and there's like a loon, like, you know, near the lake that they're beside or whatever. So just imagine yourself, guys, in that scenario, whether you're a man or a woman, you know, you're getting down with your significant other, and it's in this very, very kinked out, you know, bondage type setting, and suddenly you are chained up in the middle of nowhere. They're dead, and what the fudgicles are you gonna do, right? That's the scenario that this woman finds herself in. And the reason a lot of people always said that it was unfilmable is because when she tries to rationalize how she can get through the situation and how she can escape and what can happen, you know, how she can actually not die, she proceeds to revert into recollections of a total eclipse that went down in 1963, where something very, very weird went down with her father that I don't want to necessarily divulge, because that's actually one of the things that holds the connection to Dolores Claiborne, is the fact that they both flash back from present day 1992 back to 63 when this total eclipse went down, and how there was almost like a projection, kind of, I don't want to say telepathic, but there was like a sense of each other in the two dueling situations. And actually situations in both books with the father-daughter dynamic have, well, some direct correlation, at least as far as the flashback stuff goes. And so, yeah, that's one of the connective tissues between the two books that both came out in 92. They both came out at the same time. But so as she's flashing back to these childhood memories and stuff, because she's 39 and, you know, jumping back to the early 60s and whatnot, but a couple other voices that she hears are, one being a therapist that she was seeing for a while when she started to realize that her marriage was not necessarily in the best place. And so this was a woman she saw for a while when she was almost on the verge of thinking her husband was having an affair, but not 100% that was the case. Thought about doing the same thing herself in like her little poetry club or whatever. Doesn't end up going down, as she says. But the other person who is like popping in her head and giving her suggestions and kind of helping her rationalize and work through this horrible predicament that she has found herself in is her best friend from her early years in college. And so one, being the therapist, is very rational and very, you know, clear-minded and calm-headed and everything, whereas her friend from college is like crazoid, you know, and, you know, chain smoker, super drinker, you know, married, divorced multiple times, as she alludes to after they stop being super close because they have this falling out, which pertains to some repressed memories and stuff like that. And this is, once again, it's a lot of internal dialogue, you know. It's her having a conversation, but basically back and forth with, you know, just different voices that aren't particularly there with her. So that's probably why a lot of people, you know, in Hollywood for decades didn't think that this was necessarily filmable. But I see how it could be, and also how Mike Flanagan, the director of, well, he's done a lot of stuff at this point. I mean, he's recently popularized himself with the Netflix film Hush that Marsha Parker hated. I loved it, Cecil loved it, but to each their own. Also, he did the prequel, Ouija Origin of Evil, I believe it was, if I'm going to consult my notes properly. Yeah. But he also did Oculus and Absentia, and Absentia was one of the first things that was ever reviewed on this channel before I even joined, back when I was still a fan, and it was given high praise by Cecil and the gang. And so he's an esteemed director at this point. He's actually working on a new project for Netflix, which is going to be a series called The Haunting of Hill House, which is based on the novel by Shirley Jackson, which Stephen King himself in Dance Macabre, which is his nonfiction talking about all kinds of different horror and, you know, books, TV series, you know, films and stuff that he really thought were impressive. He called The Haunting of Hill House one of the best 20th century horror novels that has ever been written. And they've already adapted it into a film twice, in 63 and 99, I believe. Yeah. And the 99 one had at least when I saw it come out. The 63 was black and white, but the 99 one had some star power that a lot of you younger viewers may know. Liam Neeson was in it, Owen Wilson, Catherine Zeta-Jones. And so, yeah, it's about people trying to, kind of go into a house and survive a night in the place that's supposed to be haunted, and lots of talent in this version that Netflix is doing this series that Flanagan, it's going to be his next project. Got Timothy Hutton, who was he was actually in The Dark Half, so there's a Stephen King connection. And then you've also got Carla Gugino. Cecil gives me so much shizzle, I don't know how to properly pronounce it. Correct me, Italians, but Gugino, I think, really has the potential to do an amazing job with this role, because she's not like the most celebrated actress per se, but she has been in so many things and shown herself to be so versatile. I mean, she was a love interest in Son-in-Law. Yeah, there you go. Get some Pauly Shore going down, guys. But she was in the Spy Kids trilogy. She was Sally Jupiter in Watchmen, so the mother of the Malin Ackerman character. She was great in that. She's done popcorn stuff like San Andreas, but she was like Michael J. Fox's love interest in Spin City. She was great in Chicago Hope when she was on there in like season 5 or 6, which I, for one, thought was a superior show to ER. Give me the hate mail. I don't care. Chicago Hope was awesome. I watched it with my parents when I was a kid. Damn, what else? Oh, yes, that's right. She was on Entourage, but the role that, unfortunately, me being a red-blooded male, I will always think of her in Sin City as Marv's lawyer, just going around butt naked and just showing that she is not only a talented actress, but also a very, very beautiful form. Anyway, so she is essentially going to be this woman who is chained to this bed with a dead husband on the ground, and what the hell is she going to do to get out of this situation? The trailer looks fantastic. She's grasping up to get a glass of water. A stray dog that you hear barking comes in and starts chewing on her husband. I mean, so much crazy stuff goes down in this book. When I was rereading Gerald's Game, I remembered a lot of the major beats, like when she's initially internalizing and some of the flashback stuff to 63 that I already mentioned and whatnot, but they take it in the last 100 or so pages, because it's actually a pretty quick read. That's how I was able to only jump through it in a couple days. It's only a little over 300 pages. But, and I read like a ferocious animal of sorts a lot of the time. But, yeah, something that I had forgotten about, she basically thinks that she sees a boogeyman, Grim Reaper type guy come in, and yet since she's dehydrated, she's in pain, and she's like getting pins and needles and numbness, from being in the same position and all this other stuff. And so she's kind of like slipping in and out of consciousness, in and out of a dreamlike state. There's a particular point in the book where she sees what appears to be like someone else inside the room with her. Yeah, and she's not sure if that person was really there, if they were actually carrying a sack that looked like it was made from human skin and had like bones and stuff in it and whatnot. And so, yeah, I'm curious if they are gonna pursue that particular angle where, did she see somebody or didn't she see somebody? And I mean, we see from the trailer that the dog aspect is going to be in there. We see, the beats like trying to get the water glass and so on and so forth. And it's really cool how she makes a straw. It's very inventive. This was such a cleverly written book in a lot of ways, and such a departure for King, with not really having a major supernatural element or anything like that to it. In fact, I mean, as I look back, yeah, Needful Things, Leland Gaunt, or whatever his name was, spiritual, crazy, demony, whatever. Same with The Dark Half. Same with, so this was maybe one of his first forays, aside from the more fantasy-based stuff like Dark Tower and the Talisman and Eyes of the Dragon. And I guess Misery was based completely in reality, but then again, that was originally supposed to be that was supposed to be a Bachman book. So. Yeah, and after he had his secret identity, revealed to everybody, he was like, "Oh, okay, I guess Misery is going to be just a regular book." So I'm very curious how much of those odder bits of the source material Flanagan retains. I loved Hush, like I said. I loved Ouija Origin of Evil. I haven't seen his earlier work, and I haven't seen Before I Wake, which I think was panned by critics, if I'm not mistaken. Had Thomas Jane and a few others in it. So I'm just really curious. He's done great work for Netflix. Netflix typically, 9 times out of 10, does amazing stuff. Most of the bad things I've seen on Netflix as Netflix originals are things that they purchased and then put out, as opposed to things that they helped produce. And so Gugino, sorry, awesome actress. One of my only quips is that this guy, Bruce Greenwood, who is playing her husband, he's played like 3 different American presidents. I want to say one was 13 Days. Right now you can see him as the President of the United States in Kingsman: The Golden Circle. There's one other one but it's not important. He's a really good-looking, slightly older, like kind of aging guy. I mean, you've seen him in Star Trek Into Darkness. You've seen him on Mad Men. He voiced Batman in Under the Red Hood, but he has so many credits of television and film to his name, probably over 100 at this point. If you see this guy, you will probably recognize him. And so that's one of my only quips, is that in the source material, the book itself, they describe her husband as a reformed fatty of sorts. And so, but once again, he's not in the best health, and he's pudged out and not really super healthy. And they describe his eating habits at one point, that he drinks too much and all these different things. And so that's kind of what makes what happens to him. It doesn't really seem that surprising, when he gets a little rough and she gives him a little kick and he has this heart attack. But once again, you see him have the heart attack in the preview, guys, so I'm not being super spoilery, and that happens in the first 20 pages of the book. So this film is going to boil down to, how the hell does this woman get out of handcuffs when she's chained to a bed in the middle of nowhere with nobody to help her? What is she going to do? What would you do? I mean, would you break your wrists? Would you, would you just give up and die? I don't know. That's a question that a lot of people could probably ask themselves, is how you would handle this particular situation. And it's a very fascinating scenario, and that's why I've recommended this book for years to people. It's not like in my top 10 for Stephen King, but it's definitely in my top 5 for underrated Stephen King. If I was going to say like insanely underrated Stephen King, I would say this. I would say Cell. I would say Doohickey. I would say maybe Black House. I would say that's for another video. That Dr. Sleep I thought was great, Revival. But as far as stuff that for King, Rose Madder, very underrated. Another one where King was writing as a woman in the early 90s. And so this one was King trying to do something different. And for that, I really, really respect him for that. And man, Rose Madder is also about a abused woman. And that Gerald's Game, Gugino's character, not like, Jesse's not like super abused, but she's definitely unhappy in a relationship. And when the husband brings it to a point of abuse that is uncalled for, despite the fact that it's a game that they both agreed upon, and adults having sex, and boundaries that you set, and if you agree upon things. But in scenarios like bondage, there's a fine line, I guess, especially when both parties aren't like completely on the same page. And it's obviously something that you see here. This is a topic that I feel very weird talking about here on Hail to Stephen King, but nonetheless, seeing this finally adapted gives me hope that Rose Madder may actually be adapted, because that's right for one, in my opinion. It's about an abused woman whose husband is a police officer, and she decides to finally dip out and leave, and he's crazy, and he tracks her down to this woman's shelter, and she buys this crazy painting that turns into a portal, and it's like she goes in the mid-world, and so it's got a little like a Dark Tower connection, which is pretty rad. Once again, if you guys haven't read Rose Madder, that's another early 90s one. Like, with the writing as a woman stuff, I feel like Dolores Claiborne got all of the credit, and the ones that slipped by the wayside and were kind of swept under the rug were the ones that were a little weirder, which was Gerald's Game and Rose Madder. So I recommend both of those books, but I am so excited that on the 29th, which ironically enough is the same day that I am going to be seeing Stephen King just outside of Chicago. So if any of y'all are at that particular signing Q&A thing that he's doing, well, I guess there's going to be a few signed books going out, and then he's going to be doing a Q&A Q&A with the audience, which is really, really rad. And so I'm going to be documenting the whole process for a Hail to Stephen King episode. So I am super, super stoked for that. My first time going to the Chicago area, which is going to be super dope too. And I have, 3 days there. So it's going to be a lot of fun traveling from the Arizona desert up there, especially at this time of year. I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. Very excited. But yeah, on the 29th of September, same day that I'm going to be actually seeing King, that's the day that Gerald's Game goes live on to Netflix. And so I think I know what I'm going to be doing at 12 midnight on my computer at the Airbnb that I signed up for. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch Gerald's Game, and then we can do a proper review here for the channel, probably within the days after I return. Who knows, maybe when I come back for the live stream on Sunday for the horror show, we can talk about it then, or at least film a review and put that up Monday for you guys. So I got to extend a grande gracias to all of you peeps. Definitely love and very humbled and appreciative by all of the positive support and stuff that I've been seeing. So many people coming out of the woodwork on Instagram and Twitter, giving me follows and likes and just sharing kind words. I'm humbled and honored at the fact that, my love of the King in the 7 years that it's taken me to go through all of his stuff. Speaking of which, damn, we have Sleeping Beauties coming out on Tuesday. Cecil's birthday, guys, the 26th. Also, my younger brother, Johnny's birthday. Love you, man. He's out in Georgia. So, man, I have like two of the awesomest dudes that I know, both born 6 days after me. So, thank you for all the birthday wishes. Also, on the 20th, good job giving King all the birthday wishes on the 21st. And the 26th, I'm celebrating the lives of two of the closest people in my life, Cecil and my little brother. And we get a new Stephen King book that he co-wrote with his son, Owen King. That's right, it's called Sleeping Beauties. You guys need to all run out and get your copy. I'm getting a copy for free since I bought a ticket at for that sign-in Q&A thing. So I don't know, am I gonna go and go buy the audiobook maybe and start listening to it before I get out there? Because I found out my Cemetery Dance copy isn't coming for a long time, because that's going to be a deluxe and they're still finishing the artwork and the printing and all that. I, for whatever reason, naively thought that it was going to be ready about the same time. So since that's not the case, I don't know. But you will be seeing a Sleeping Beauties review coming from yours truly very soon as well. So once again, a grande gracias. Make sure to wish Cecil well here on the horror show on the 26th of September. That's right, September kids are the coolest. No offense to everybody else, I still love you equally. And I've been Jaime Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors, Twitter, Instagram predominantly, Facebook as well. Relaunching a YouTube channel very soon under the Infuegotainment banner, probably sometime in October, or it might have to push to November because we have a lot of content coming, including moving all of the episodes of Tales from the Crypt that I reviewed a few years ago to the horror show. Who's excited about that? Tell me. So until the Wheel of Ka comes around next time for more Stephen King coverage, once again, I'm Fuego. You have been fantastic, and until we meet again, hasta luego, sin amigos. I hope it's sooner rather than later, and until then, stay scared and read Gerald's Game. If you can, before the movie. Looks pretty dope.